Welcome to Nicstalgia, your favorite pop culture podcast, where we have deep conversations about superficial things. I'm Nicole, your host, and each week we unlock core memories from the 90s, 2000s, and beyond while examining the past through a contemporary lens. Our guests are pop culture tastemakers who explore how our formative experiences shape how we see the world. We talk about trends, fashion, music, identity, consumer behavior, societal attitudes, and more. Nicstalgia is a reminder of how our individual and collective memories make us feel like we belong. And if you like Nicstalgia, be sure to follow, subscribe, rate, review, and share with a friend who loves pop culture as much as we do. Plus, we have a lot of fun. Enjoy the show. Hello and welcome to this week's episode of Nicstalgia. I have Danielle here with me today, and I'm excited because she is the ultimate 90s babe, and we love all things 90s. We hang out at the intersection of pop culture and technology and nostalgia, our favorite things. And so she's here with me today to talk about kind of the influence behind that and the way that the 90s and tapping into that playfulness and fun really brings people together and makes them feel a part of something. So welcome.
Awesome. Thank you. I'm excited to be here and to talk all things 90s.
Yeah, I am too. We're going to get right into it because I feel like in the 90s, we really had a sense of ownership, and something that I just want to bring up right away is and I know that you're a mom now currently in life, but in the 90s we were Tamagotchi moms. We were Tamagotchi parents. And for anybody who is listening to the podcast instead of watching on YouTube or Spotify, I am decked out today in my Tamagotchi necklace. It is an authentic 1997 McDonald's toy that I actually had. It's a little green Tamagotchi necklace, and you change the little knobs to give different color combinations, and I thought it was so appropriate to wear for today's episode. So do you have any particular Tamagotchi stories that you remember, or just its legacy and impact on your life?
It really, yeah. Oh my God. First of all, I love that you still have your Tamagotchi. That I remember when those came out at McDonald's. I feel like I was having my mom take me there every other week trying to get a different color one, and just trying to really collect them all. But oh my God, my poor Tamagotchis, honestly. I actually had my Tamagotchis up until I was like 14 or 15. Like, seriously, had those forever. Always killed them, almost always. It was like a fun challenge. I just remember it was always like halfway through the day and you're like, oh God, I forgot to feed my Tamagotchi. And just the struggle of trying to keep those poor little digipets alive.
Yes, this is not my original. I literally found it on Etsy because I thought I can't live without a Tamagotchi any longer. And I don't know if any of the ones from back in the day would still be functional. But yeah. With this, it's like there are actually a bunch of Etsy stores now that make all kinds of cool, nostalgic. They just take the relics from the past, or there are a bunch of different resin earrings and things like that. And they're so kitschy and they're so fun to see. I've talked about my Tamagotchi experience before, where I wrote in my second grade journal that I thought my Tamagotchi dog had passed away, but really she just had a baby and she was actually fine. So I was very grateful for that. But like the drama.
Oh my God, the drama. I forgot that happened with the Tamagotchis, honestly. I feel like there was so many like different little digipets at the time. And I just never forget like how cute the little symbols were, and always just trying to figure out what that little Tamagotchi needed in the moment.
Yeah, now it's like figuring out what I need in the moment. Yeah. It's not like Sims where there's the little diamond over your head, and when it's red, you need some sleep or food or whatever. I'm like, okay, that would actually be pretty helpful if I did have a diamond around my head.
Oh my God, yes, it would. To live life like The Sims or a Tamagotchi, where you can just like symbolize what it is that you need and just know right off the bat, would be incredible.
Seriously, I love that. Speaking of 90s parenthood, did you have a collection of Beanie Babies?
Yes. Oh, definitely. I had a collection of Beanie Babies. I had a collection of the McDonald's, like, mini Beanie Babies. I think those were my favorite. I mean, always obsessed with like miniaturized items, you know? So when they rolled out with those little Beanie Babies, they were even like Christmas ornaments actually. They had ties on them. I My mom still has the original one, and she puts it up on her Christmas tree every year of like one of the holiday edition Beanie Babies. Um, Unfortunately, I did not keep my Beanie Babies. I remember like 10 years ago, I did still have a few, and I saw like that article going around on the internet about like the spider eggs inside of the Beanie Babies and got scared and was like, I don't want them anymore. I regret that, definitely, especially today. But I am sad to say I don't still have any of the Beanie Babies outside of the Christmas ornament ones.
I didn't know about that spider eggs thing. That's a little creepy. I did watch there was a TY, or was it Ty? And I always just thought it was pronounced TY. Anyway, there was a documentary about the company and its founder and all of the craziness that happened there. And it was very, very interesting. But yeah, I didn't keep any of mine either. I remember I loved there was that purple platypus and there was a little blue lizard.
Oh
Those
my
are
God,
my
yeah.
favorites.
And the Princess Diana, right? The one with the rose on it. That was like one of the most iconic ones. I actually think today that's the one that retails for the highest price, is that specific Beanie Baby. But no, I loved all of them. I loved the bears, the animals, any, like you mentioned, like the lizards. I remember there was like an iguana that I loved back then. It was one of my favorites. And then I always liked the holiday ones. Like anytime that I could find like a little ghost or a little Halloween one, I absolutely loved those.
That's amazing. I actually had an ocelot one, which when I was in second grade, we had to do a school project just on the jungle and different animals. And an ocelot, which, if anyone doesn't know, it's similar to a cheetah. It's in the cat family. And yeah, there was one in the local zoo that I went to see when I was a kid and was like, this is the coolest animal ever. It's so beautiful. I love it. And then they ended up having a Beanie Baby of it. And actually, it could have been a cheetah. I don't know. But it looked like an ocelot to me. And so, to my interpretation, I'm like, this is the best thing ever. This is like my animal. And especially since I think they might have been endangered back then, or at least they're not native to the Americas, and so it's not like you could have one for a pet, or not like you would see one out in the woods or whatever. And so that was a very, very special moment. All of these toys, I did an episode about all these different 90s toys and how they really just resonated with us.
They really did. It's funny, like the Beanie Babies, definitely. I like had the largest collection. I just thought that they were so cute. They really were like our little friends, you know. The Beanie Babies and even the Furbies. I know the Furbies, I feel like, are kind of controversial. Some people say that they're terrifying. Did you see the movie? Oh my gosh, it's like a newer Netflix movie, and it has this giant Furby at the end, and it's like Furby attacking the mall. I have to look up what it's called. But that, I thought that was so hysterical, because I feel like that's how Furbies were. You either loved them or they scared you. I felt like there was no in between.
Okay, my sister had one and I was terrified of them. And even so, one of my 90s babes has a Furby, and I'm like, it's okay. It's not real. It's not a real Furby. It's one eyelid isn't going to start twitching. It's okay. But yeah, your collection of this digital art, 90s babes, basically, for anyone who hasn't seen it yet, it is a collection of various 90s babes. They're girlies who, with this artwork, they each have unique traits. And so there are so many different combinations. So whether it's the hairstyle, the eye color, a hat, and various 90s accessories, you really get like every kind of 90s girl. And even just looking through, whether it's the N64, a VHS tape, a Lunchable, a brick phone, a Kodak camera, like a disposable camera, of course, it really just brings you back. And I think that it's such a fun way to utilize art and technology to, just like your ownership, your parenthood of your Tamagotchi, establish ownership and establish your place in this community of people who really love the 90s.
Oh my God. Yeah, it was honestly so much fun creating the collection. I mean, our whole team, you know, we'd sit down and we'd get on these meetings to strategize, and we would just start talking about our childhood. You know, we would just start talking about what were the things that stuck out to us the most, and, you know, what resonated with us. You know, we've got a Furby in the collection. We've got a Tamagotchi in the collection. We've got like a pizza Lunchable in the collection. I feel like I lived off of those as a child, you know? And the zebra striped gum, the one that would leave tattoos on your tongue. Like, it was incredible getting to create the collection, but then also getting to show my son the collection. You know, we did like a little gift bag giveaway for our team members, and in there I got to order that zebra striped gum. And so, you know, like I kept a pack and got to show him how to put the tattoos on, and it really was feeling like just reliving that excitement of my childhood all over again.
Yeah, I think that it's so cool to look at, now how some 90s kids and babies are parents today in 2022, and they're showing their kids these, whether it's a TV show or a movie, something that they enjoyed as a kid. Is there anything in particular that you've showed him that was something that was your favorite when you were younger that you've kind of passed down?
Definitely. Oh my God. Yeah. There's a lot of things. So like my husband, he was huge Mutant Ninja Turtle fan. So, I mean, that has been something where we like bought this like Ninja Turtle pizza cookbook. And so that's become like one of his favorite things to do is to make Ninja Turtle pizza, he calls it, you know. We get to whip out the cookbook, and it's pretty cool. It's got like a whole bunch of recipes that, you know, the Ninja Turtles would have eaten. And so that's become kind of like a Saturday night tradition now, is movie nights and getting to make pizza. The Beanie Babies are definitely, like, I remember the Beanie Babies now, they've got these like giant eyes. They've kind of changed the style of them. And so, you know, getting to look through like eBay and different pictures of what the Beanie Babies used to look like. We've had a ton of fun doing that. And then the movie I was talking about earlier is called Mitchell's vs. the Machines. At the end, it has the giant Furby in the super mall, right? And so when we watched that, I remember he didn't get it at first, you know? He's like, what is this creature? And so, you know, we got to have fun, like, sitting there online and looking through, like, what the Furbies were. And, you know, he's like, oh, I want one of those. Those are cool. So we've had a lot of fun getting to bring those things back. You know, the cartoons are another one. Outside of the Ninja Turtles, like, I absolutely loved the Rugrats. That was one of my favorites. And so, you know, getting to show him what the Rugrats were like, and just kind of watching that same excitement light up in his eyes is just really, really something special.
Yeah, my cousin's son is almost 2. And I'm like, wait, do you realize that your son's almost Chucky Finster's age? Like, he's still Tommy Pickles right now, but he's about to go to Chucky Finster age. And he's like, that's so funny when you think about it like that, because now, and I know they did the all grown up series, but yeah, even now it's like they're our age. That's crazy.
That is so crazy to think about, honestly. Like, a lot of the television shows, a lot of the actresses and, you know, child actors who are all grown up now, it's crazy. I can honestly say I wasn't as big of a fan of the Rugrats grown-ups, but there is one specific scene from it that, like, I'll never forget. And it's like Tommy Pickles and Chucky, they're like in these adult bodies, and they're just like not feeling it. They're like, I want to be a kid again. You know, like adulthood is not what it's cracked up to be. And there has been many times as an adult I've kind of had that moment in my head of like, this is what they were feeling.
I always think about the episode where Angelica breaks her leg, and so Stu and Dee Dee are waiting on her hand and foot, quite literally. And so she says she wants chocolate pudding. Stu goes to the store. They don't have any instant pudding. They only have the kind of make from scratch. So he buys a box of that, goes back to the kitchen. He's standing at the counter, stirring a bowl, making pudding, and Dee Dee walks into the kitchen and says, Stu, it's 4 a.m. Why are you making chocolate pudding? And he said, because I've lost control of my life. And that has been highly memeified across the internet, and for good reason, because I think that we all realize one day that we are no longer Angelica sitting in bed waiting for someone to give us a bowl of chocolate pudding. We are the ones making the chocolate pudding.
Wow. Yeah, that is relatable. I can definitely say I've had some of those moments throughout my parenthood experience these last few years where I'm sitting there and I'm like, what am I doing? All because he asked for some special treat. It is crazy. The treats of the 90s. Wow. Like that's something I remember. Like, do you remember the purple and green ketchup?
Yeah, that was very interesting. I just feel like at the time, around the turn of the century there, and I feel like when you say turn of the century, it sounds so dramatic, but I just feel like at that time, big advertising and big marketing, like it was still such a thing. There were still those very traditional advertising agencies that just had so much money, and our generation still grew up with seeing all these advertisements everywhere, constantly in magazines, on television. And so by that point, they were really just having a field day and being like, how much can we push people to see what they will buy? And did we buy purple ketchup? Yes, we did.
Yes, we did. And yes, we ate it on everything. It's so funny. I look back at that now and I'm like, there's no way that was good for us. You know, there's no way. But yeah, the purple ketchup, I'm very glad that Dunkaroos made a comeback, because Dunkaroos were phenomenal then and they're phenomenal now. I don't know if you've tried the new ones. They don't taste exactly the same, but they're pretty close.
Okay, that's good to know. I did recently have, I think they're Pillsbury brand, but the little sugar cookies that you just get in the grocery store, and they make all different kinds of designs on them. And so for Halloween, my sister has always been Count Chocula's biggest fan. And so she will literally buy a box of Count Chocula, at least one box, every year around this time. And they made those little Pillsbury cookies with Frankenberry and Count Chocula, and their face, like, it's such a small cookie that it's just the outline of their face and it's kind of smushed, but you're like, whatever, these are the cereals that we ate when we were kids, so it works.
Those are one of my favorite cookies to this day, so definitely know what you're talking about. And I'm gonna have to look for that specific edition because I haven't seen those, but absolutely loved that cereal.
Yeah, I even think of, there were the Flintstones too. They had two things. One, those push pops, which were literally just like, how do you even describe it? Almost like a creamsicle adjacent vibe, but the push up was literally a tube of toilet paper. It was like that paper that would just disintegrate. And then they had the vitamins too, which the red ones were always my favorite. The little daily vitamins in the shape of Flintstones characters.
Oh my God. Yeah, I remember the Flintstone vitamins. I still love push-up pops, honestly. There is something about push-up pops. You would think that they would have changed like the applicator at some point, made it a little a little more resistant. But nope, it definitely is a toilet paper roll with a plastic applicator next to it.
I know. Even though I was a little bit, no, I don't know. I was like 9 when SpongeBob came out. Like if you go to the ice cream truck and they would have a SpongeBob popsicle, I would always get Bubbles, the Powerpuff Girl. But then I've seen memes sometimes where if you get one of those ice cream truck popsicles, but they got kind of melted or something, and like the colors would drip down, and I'm like, that's not very on brand.
Oh my God, yes. It's so funny. Yeah, I would always get a Powerpuff Girls. I absolutely loved the Powerpuff Girls. Something about the sugar, spice, and everything nice. I feel like I always identified with that, you know? It was like, just like to my core. And I love that they were just like these crime fighting women and girls that were, you know, able to go out there and kick some butt. Yeah, that would have been my choice at the ice cream truck as well.
It's so funny because whenever I try to think of, okay, which Powerpuff Girl am I? It's a very difficult question. I think through an astrological lens, which is one that I love to apply. I'm a Blossom, Sun, Bubbles, Moon, Buttercup, Rising, because I feel like I can't just pick one. Like you have a little bit of all of those girls, whether you're the leader or whether you bring an optimism to the group or whether you're just like a tough cookie. There's truly a little bit of each in all of us.
Oh my God. Yeah, I resonate with that so much. You know, hearing you ask the question, at first I was going to say Blossom. Like I always felt like a little Blossom, like, come on, let's do this. Let's go here. Let's do that. But at the same time, you know, I've also was always Bubbles. I was always happy and bubbly and, you know, the little ray of sunshine. But if you messed with me, I was Buttercup, you know, it was, it really was a little bit of all three.
Yes. If we are talking about girl power archetypes of the 90s, I have to mention Spice Girls. Who is your favorite?
Who is my favorite? You know, my favorite, that's a hard one. I feel like I love every single one of the Spice Girls. Now, whenever we would play Spice Girls growing up, I would always either be Ginger Spice, Sporty Spice, or Baby Spice. I feel like those were the three that I would always want to be. Again, kind of like the Powerpuff Girls. I feel like I resonated with them in different ways. You know, I definitely Ginger Spice. She was just, again, she was that leader. She was out there. She just seemed like fearless and just like I remember watching the movies and like watching them go out on stage and being like, wow, it's got to take a lot of courage to get out there and to sing and dance in front of so many people. But you know, I definitely saw a little bit of all of them.
I love that. Me and my best friend in first grade would fight over who was going to be Sporty Spice. I loved her because she was the best singer and she always did, you know, cartwheels and back handsprings, and I loved to dance. So I was like, wow, that's so cool. She can sing and dance and do backflips. It was really just the whole package. And I think, yeah, as I've gotten older, I've realized you see a little bit of yourself in multiple of them. And people are like, oh, I feel like you're more like Posh Spice than Sporty Spice. And I'm like, I'm going to go ahead and take that as a compliment. Because Posh Spice can be a little rough around the edges sometimes, but yeah, that's one very enduring 90s piece of pop culture that's always stayed with me. Is there something that you feel like you love it just as much today as you did when you were a kid?
Oh man, yes, actually, Nintendo 64. No doubt. So one of our like my sales milestones for the 90s babes was we got to buy a fully stacked Nintendo 64 and give it out to one of the holders. And so in doing so, I took my son with me and we went around to all of these different game stores and looked for like a rare, you know, like a vintage 90s edition in working condition. And so we ended up, he was like, I want one. You know, why are we giving it away? So a couple weeks later, he had, you know, done really well on something he was working on with school. And so we took him and got a Nintendo 64. And initially really went into it like, oh, I'm doing this for him. I'm the one that plays the Nintendo 64 the most. So we've got it set up downstairs. We've got like 5 different games with it. And it's become something that we do like on Friday nights. We will pull out the Mario Party and we'll get a bag of popcorn and some pizza and we'll sit around and we'll play Mario Party. And it is so fun. I remember doing that as a kid. My friends would come over and we'd plug in Mario Party and I feel like we'd set it on like the highest setting and just play Mario Party for like hours and hours and hours. And then here we are, 20 years, 25 years later, and we're doing it again.
I love that. Do you remember your first sleepover that you had when you were a kid?
I don't know if it was my first sleepover, but one of my best friends at the time lived in our neighborhood. And I remember that I was allowed to go spend the night at her house. And I just remember it being so exciting and us like, we used to, this is so funny to say as an adult, but we used to play Office. We would like go in the closet and pretend we were working, which is just so funny to think about. But that was like, I remember staying up late. We were allowed to like stay up late and play. And so we were like in the closet with like our tables and our little pretend computers and calculators. And I remember staying up late and that was like so thrilling to get to pretend we were working.
That's really funny. I would grow up to work in corporate and still pretend that I was working.
Same. Oh my God, same. I know. And it's funny, that same friend and I we're still friends. And we were actually reminiscing about that a few weeks ago of like, how funny is it that we would sit there and we'd be like, okay, going into my office now, and just sit down like it was no thing.
With 90s babes. So like I mentioned, they have a ton of different identifiable traits. If you were to make your own 90s babe that represents you yourself, Danielle, which traits would you have? It doesn't have to be, well, because I know one of the hairstyles is called the Danielle, right?
It is. And see, okay, so I love this question because this was probably one of the most fun things that we did was we got to build our own babes. Getting ready to go into the pre-marketing phase and like promoting what we were doing with the collection. We all sat down and were like, okay, what does our ideal babe look like? And, what I ended up choosing was there is a hairstyle in the collection called the Danielle, which is like a long blonde hairstyle. And then I picked a leather jacket because that is definitely something I would be wearing is a leather jacket and the dark maroon makeup look, kind of like the grunge look. And the attribute that I picked was it's resembled from Fight Club, but it's the Babe Club soap. I remember absolutely loving the Fight Club movie. I feel like, and it's funny, I always felt like empowered watching different movies of like, I don't know, that just like channeled that inner strength and that inner peace within you. And so, the idea of the Fight Club soap, I'd say that would definitely be one. And another one would honestly be the mix CD. We've got like a summer mix CD one in the collection, and that was something that I feel like got me through my childhood. Just, making different CDs. I'd have one for like a summer playlist and I remember, you'd go through like a breakup with a friend or a boyfriend or something and you'd make like the breakup playlist, and I feel like those CDs really got me by.
Yeah. Are there any traits that you would kind of leave in the 90s?
Oh man. So yes, there is. The makeup. So it's funny because when creating the collection, we really wanted to be, on the nose with the 90s. And one of the trends that I would leave in the 90s is some of the makeup looks that were really in style. I mean, the bright, colorful, kind of crazy makeup looks were super in. So, I can't think of a specific trait. I just know that we had some makeup styles that we were creating, the Cameron Diaz, the makeup looks that everyone was doing at those times that I would definitely leave in the past. Jinko jeans, we did not put that in the collection, but that's something I would have left in the past for sure. Um, outside of that, I don't know. So much of the 90s style I still love to this day. You know, the band t-shirts, the yin yangs, the bandana tops. Oh my god, I remember those being so popular. The bandana t-shirts, like you just make your own. Okay, that's another one. It did not end up in the collection, but do you remember the t-shirts that you would buy them and they were like this big? They looked like doll clothing and they were scrunched and then they would like expand as you put them on.
Yes, the popcorn shirts. There was an article in Vogue about them, and I would say that is hands down my least favorite 90s trend. If I had to pick only, like, if the level that I don't trust Furbies is the level of my dislike for these popcorn shirts, which is very, very high. I had a purple one when I was in elementary school, and it was so uncomfortable that I had to get rid of it. And then maybe, I don't remember whether I was in high school or college, but there was one Christmas where my mom put a popcorn shirt in our, I don't know if she put them in our stockings. They would have fit, but either way, she got them for us for Christmas. And she was like, oh my God, remember? These were like so nostalgic from when you were a kid. But I like could not hide my feelings. I was like, I hate this shirt. And she's like, oh, come on, it's not. I'm like, no, I hated this shirt then. I hated it now. And I hate to not graciously accept a gift, but this is where I draw the line.
Oh my god, that's so funny. I wonder where she even found that. I have not seen those in so long.
Oh, I know where she found them. She works in finance and had been working for a hospital. And I think it was from the hospital gift shop.
Oh my gosh. That's so
Which like makes it even worse because any clothing that they sell in a gift shop at a hospital is from, it's not exactly like the cutting edge of style.
Yeah. No, definitely not. That is so funny.
Okay, we're going to play a game, now or then. So now is something that you would still want or still use or still rebuy today in 2022 versus then, okay, it's nice to think about, reminisce about, but let's leave it back in the 90s. So these are all going to be 90s babes attributes, so you're going to recognize them. Perfect. Okay. Fruit roll-ups.
Definitely now.
Floppy disks.
Then.
Chapstick.
Oh, definitely now, especially the lip smackers.
Yes, I love the lip smackers. I already know what you're going to say about the Burn CD, the Beanie Baby, and the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle Ice Pop. Definitely nows.
Definitely nows, yep.
Okay, how about a Cynthia doll?
Oh man, you know what? I'm going to go with then because I thought it was creepy back then, and I still do now.
Okay, Capri Sun.
Oh, now. Still love a good Capri Sun.
Let's see. Now that's what I call music.
We're going to leave that one in the past then.
We've talked about this before. Like, I think they're on now 84 now, and they're going to go to now 516.
I honestly, that was something like it. I remember it being so cool at the time. It was like all the best songs on one CD. But I feel like after now 9, it was kind of like, okay, and I'm over this.
Yes, my sister had now 6. I had now 7, and it truly defined a few years there. It was like any genre, any song that was important to anyone was on that CD.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Let's see. Game Boy.
Oh, definitely now. I would absolutely love to play a Game Boy again.
Cassette players.
I'm going to have to go with then. I feel like they were so easy to break. I feel like I was always, my dad, anytime he'd let me borrow his cassette player, I was getting yelled at about, something I did to the tape or something that I didn't plug back in right. So yeah, I'm going to go with past.
Polaroid cameras.
Now, for sure. I love that they've brought the Polaroid camera back.
the paper fortune tellers that you had at recess.
Yeah, that's another now one. And fun story, I actually had, so for our 90s, we did a huge 90s Babes party in New York in June. And we handmade hundreds of those little fortune tellers to bring into the party as like decor. And honestly, got so good at making them again. It was so funny, like how that like, you know, muscle memory just comes back to you.
Okay, Pokemon.
Definitely now.
And finally, I have a feeling I know what you're going to say about this one too. The fanny pack.
Definitely now. I love a good fanny pack. I've always loved like my satchels, and I feel like the satchel's just like the evolution of the fanny pack. So yeah, definitely now.
Amazing. Yeah, I love a good fanny pack too. It's very convenient for just hands-free, really travel, really anything.
Really, it really is. And I feel like, so we have some 90s Babes fanny packs, and they're the ones with like the dual pockets and all the different compartments, and those were my favorite. So I'm excited to get to bring that back.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, thank you so much for being here with me today. This flew by.
It really did. Thank you so much for having me. This was great.
Of course. It's just like how I'm always like, oh yeah, 1999 was 12 years ago. Not anymore, it wasn't.
That is wild to think of. It really is. It's wild to think of, you know, how long ago it was, and at the same time, it feels like it was yesterday.
Mm-hmm. It really does. Thanks again for being here. I want to thank everybody for listening too, and we will see you guys next time. Bye. That's a wrap for this week. If you like Nicstalgia, please connect with me on social, subscribe to the Nicstalgia newsletter at nicstalgia.substack.com, and follow, rate, review on your platform of choice. Everything's linked in the show notes, including where to find more about our guest of the week. Thank you so much for your support, and that was this week's episode of Nicstalgia.